Jasmine Crockett was not someone who liked to think about her past too much. She had worked hard to leave it behind, burying old secrets under layers of success and ambition. Now, at just 32 years old, she was one of the youngest members of Congress, known for her bold speeches and fierce determination. People called her inspiring, fearless even. But Jasmine knew better than anyone that there were cracks beneath the surface, places where the truth could seep through if someone dug deep enough. It was a cold November evening when Jasmine found herself standing backstage at the Donald J. Trump show. The show was famous, or infamous depending on how you looked at it, for being unpredictable. It didn't matter whether you were a politician, celebrity, or business tycoon. Once you stepped onto that stage, anything could happen. Tonight, Jasmine would face the former president himself. She had agreed to appear because she thought it would be good publicity. Maybe she could use this platform to talk about the issues she cared about: climate change, education reform, social justice. But as she waited behind the curtain, clutching her notes tightly, doubt began to creep in. She glanced around the bustling, backstage area. Technicians adjusted cameras, producers whispered urgently into headsets, and makeup artists made last-minute touch-ups. Everything moved so fast, yet Jasmine felt like time was slowing down. Her heart pounded in her chest. What if something went wrong? What if he asked questions she wasn't ready for? 3 minutes, a voice called out, snapping her back to reality. Jasmine took a deep breath and tried to focus. She reminded herself why she was here, to make a difference. That was what mattered most. Still, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at her stomach. Somewhere deep inside, she wondered if agreeing to this interview had been a mistake. Across town, Emma Taylor sat hunched over her laptop in a tiny apartment cluttered with papers and books. Emma was an investigative journalist, though lately, she hadn't had much luck finding stories worth writing about. Most days she spent hours scrolling through old files and databases, searching for anything interesting. Tonight, however, she had stumbled upon something unusual: a collection of documents related to Jasmine Crockett's early career. Emma leaned closer to the screen, her brow furrowed in concentration. According to these records, Jasmine had worked as a corporate lobbyist right after college. At first glance, that didn't seem particularly scandalous. Many politicians started their careers in lobbying. But as Emma read further, she noticed red flags. Several companies Jasmine had represented were involved in environmental violations. There were also whispers of illegal payments and cover-ups, though nothing concrete had ever come to light. Emma tapped her pen against the desk, thinking. Something about this story felt important. If true, it could explain how Jasmine had risen so quickly in politics. Perhaps she had connections or skeletons that no one knew about. Emma decided to keep digging. She opened another tab and started looking up names mentioned in the documents. One name caught her attention: Lisa Harper. According to the file, Lisa had gone to college with Jasmine and later worked briefly for the same lobbying firm. Emma scribbled down Lisa's name and resolved to track her down. For now, though, she turned her attention to the TV. The Donald J. Trump show was about to start, and she wanted to see how Jasmine handled herself under pressure. Maybe she'd say something revealing during the interview. Either way, Emma planned to watch closely. Back at the studio, Jasmine heard her cue and stepped onto the stage. Bright lights blinded her momentarily, but she forced herself to smile and wave at the audience. They clapped politely as she took her seat across from Trump. He greeted her warmly, complimenting her fiery spirit and congratulating her on her achievements. Jasmine relaxed slightly, grateful for the friendly tone. For the next half hour, the conversation stayed relatively safe. Trump asked about her policies, her plans for the future, and her thoughts on current events. Jasmine answered confidently, making sure to highlight her commitment to helping ordinary Americans. She talked about growing up in Kentucky, about watching her parents struggle to make ends meet. She painted herself as a fighter, someone who understood what it meant to work hard for everything you had. But then Trump shifted gears. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. His expression changed, becoming sharper, more intense. "Jasmine," he said, his voice smooth but deliberate, You've done some incredible things in your career, but there are certain aspects of your past that I believe the American people deserve to know about." Jasmine froze. Her mind raced, trying to anticipate what he might say next. Had someone leaked information about her lobbying days? Or was this just another attempt to rattle her? Trump reached beside him and picked up a folder labeled "Confidential." He opened it slowly, letting the suspense build. Then, without warning, he began reading aloud. "According to these documents," he said, "you previously worked as a lobbyist for several companies accused of environmental violations. Furthermore, it appears you accepted significant sums of money to suppress evidence against them." The words hit Jasmine like a punch to the gut. She stared at him, speechless. Her hands trembled slightly, and she clenched them together to hide her nerves. "That's not true," she managed to say, her voice shaking. "I never did anything unethical." Trump raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Are you saying these documents are fake?" "No, Jasmine faltered, unsure how to respond. She glanced toward the cameras, hoping to find some kind of support, but all she saw were blank lenses staring back at her. In her apartment, Emma watched the scene unfold with growing excitement. This was exactly the kind of moment she lived for. She grabbed her phone and texted Daniel Foster, a retired lawyer she sometimes consulted on corporate scandals. "Did you hear about this?" she wrote. "Looks like we're onto something big." As the interview continued, Jasmine grew increasingly flustered. Trump pressed her relentlessly, refusing to let her dodge his questions. The audience murmured uneasily, unsure what to believe. Some booed while others cheered. Social media erupted with reactions, hashtags like "Wengi expose Jasmine" and "Trust No One" trending within minutes. By the end of the segment, Jasmine was visibly shaken. She thanked Trump stiffly and hurried off stage, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Backstage, Ryan Mitchell, her assistant, rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etched on his face. Jasmine shook her head. "I don't know," she admitted quietly. "This isn't over." And she was right. Little did she know, Emma Taylor was already piecing together the puzzle, determined to uncover the truth and bring it to light. Emma Taylor leaned back in her chair, staring at the screen with wide eyes. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating for just a moment before she began typing furiously. The interview replayed in her mind like a broken record. Trump's accusations, Jasmine's stammering response, the audience's gasps. It was clear that something big had been exposed, but Emma wasn't satisfied yet. She needed more. She wanted proof. The name Lisa Harper kept coming back to her. If anyone could shed light on Jasmine's past, it was Lisa. Emma scrolled through social media profiles until she found what she was looking for, a middle-aged woman living quietly in Florida. Her profile picture showed her smiling beside a golden retriever standing in front of a modest suburban home. Emma jotted down Lisa's address and booked a flight for the next morning. While waiting for her plane, Emma decided to dig deeper into the companies mentioned during the interview. One stood out, a mid-sized energy firm called Green Peak Energy. According to public records, they had faced numerous lawsuits over illegal dumping practices. What caught Emma's attention was a whistleblower report from nearly a decade ago claiming that key evidence had mysteriously disappeared. Someone had paid off witnesses and tampered with documents, ensuring the case never made it to trial. Emma's phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a text from Daniel Foster, the retired lawyer she'd contacted earlier. "I saw the interview," he wrote. "If you're serious about pursuing this, we need to talk." Emma replied immediately. "I'm heading to Florida tomorrow to meet an old college friend of Jasmine's. Can you help me connect the dots?" Daniel responded within minutes. "Call me when you land. I'll share everything I know." Satisfied, Emma closed her laptop and glanced out the window. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the city streets. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of excitement. This story had the potential to blow open doors that had been locked tight for years. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett sat slumped in her hotel room, staring blankly at the wall. The weight of the evening's events pressed down on her chest, making It hard to breathe. She replayed every second of the interview in her head, cringing at each misstep. Why hadn't she prepared better? Why hadn't Ryan warned her about this possibility? Ryan Mitchell knocked softly on the door before letting himself in. He carried 2 cups of coffee, setting one down on the bedside table. "You should drink this," he said gently. "It'll help." Jasmine shook her head. "Nothing's going to help," she muttered. "Do you realize what this means? My career is over." Ryan sighed, pulling up a chair beside her. "It's not over yet. We can still fix this." "How?" Jasmine snapped, her voice rising. "He exposed me live. On national television, everyone thinks I'm some kind of criminal now." Ryan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "We can fight back. Release a statement denying the allegations. Maybe even sue him for defamation." Jasmine laughed bitterly. "And who's going to believe me after tonight? No one trusts politicians anymore, Ryan. Not even ones like me." Her assistant fell, silent, unsure how to respond. He knew she was right. Public opinion shifted quickly, especially when fueled by scandal. But giving up wasn't an option either. They had to do something, or risk losing everything. The next morning, Emma landed in Miami and rented a car to drive to Lisa Harper's house. As she navigated the quiet suburban streets, she rehearsed what she would say. She didn't want to scare Lisa off or come across as too aggressive. Instead, she planned to approach the conversation casually, letting Lisa reveal whatever she was comfortable sharing. When Emma arrived, she parked outside the neatly trimmed lawn and took a deep breath. Then, clutching her notebook and pen, she walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Lisa answered almost immediately, wearing jeans and a faded t-shirt. She looked surprised to see a stranger on her doorstep, but greeted Emma politely. "Can I help you?" she asked. Emma introduced herself and explained why she was there. "I'm working on a story about Jasmine Crockett," she said. "I understand you went to college with her. I was hoping you might have some insight into her early career." Lisa frowned, clearly hesitant. "Why are you asking about her?" "There have been some allegations," Emma replied carefully. "I just want to get to the truth." After a pause, Lisa stepped aside. "Come in," she said, "but I don't know how much I can tell you." Inside, Lisa led Emma to the living room and offered her a seat. She poured 2 glasses of water and sat down across from her guest. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Lisa broke the silence. "Jasmine and I were close once," she began. "We studied political science together and dreamed of changing the world. But somewhere along the way, things changed." Emma leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Lisa hesitated, as if weighing her words. "Jasmine always wanted power. At first I thought it was admirable. She cared so much about making a difference. But then I realized she was willing to do anything to get ahead. Manipulation, sabotage, nothing was off limits." Emma scribbled notes furiously, trying not to miss a single detail. "Did you ever see her do anything unethical?" Lisa nodded, slowly. "There was this one incident during our senior year. A classmate of ours was running for student council president. Jasmine wanted the position badly, so she spread rumors about him, things that weren't true. When he confronted her, she threatened to ruin his reputation if he didn't drop out of the race." Emma's heart raced. This was exactly the kind of information she needed. "What happened to him?" "He dropped out," Lisa said sadly. "He transferred schools shortly afterward. I don't think he ever forgave her." They talked for another hour, covering everything from Jasmine's lobbying days to her relationships with influential figures. By the time Emma left, her notebook was full of valuable insights. She thanked Lisa and promised to keep her identity confidential. As she drove back to the airport, Emma couldn't stop thinking about what Lisa had said. It all fit together: the ambition, the manipulation, the willingness to cross ethical lines. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just a politician caught in a scandal. She was someone who had built her entire career on deception. Back in Washington, Ryan Mitchell paced nervously around Jasmine's office. He had spent hours drafting a statement to address the allegations, but nothing felt right. Every word seemed defensive or evasive, which would only make things worse. Finally, he picked up the phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. After a few rings, a gruff voice answered. "Who is this?" "It's Ryan," he said, quickly. "I need your help." There was a long pause. "With what?" "Jasmine's in trouble," Ryan admitted. "Big trouble, and I think you're the only person who can fix it." On the other end of the line, the man chuckled darkly. "You're playing with fire, kid. Are you sure you want to go down this road?" Ryan swallowed hard. "We don't have a choice." That night, Jasmine lay awake in bed staring at the ceiling. She knew Ryan was doing everything he could to salvage the situation, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it was already too late. The damage had been done, and no amount of spin or denial could undo it. Little did she know Emma Taylor was closer than ever to uncovering the truth. With Lisa Harper's testimony and Daniel Foster's expertise, the pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to come together. All Emma needed now was one final push, and she was determined to find it. Emma Taylor sat in her car outside Lisa Harper's house, flipping through her notebook one last time. She had spent hours talking to Lisa, piecing together fragments of Jasmine Crockett's past. Each detail painted a clearer picture of a woman who was willing to do whatever it took to climb the ladder of success. But Emma knew she needed more, hard evidence that could stand up to scrutiny. Her next stop was Daniel Foster's law office. He had agreed to meet her there after hearing about her findings. As she drove through the quiet streets of Miami, she thought about how far she had come in just 2 days. This story had started as a hunch, but now it felt like something much bigger, a chance to expose corruption and hold someone accountable. When Emma arrived at Daniel's office, he greeted her warmly, ushering her inside. His workspace was exactly as she had imagined, organized chaos. Papers were piled high on every surface, and bookshelves lined the walls, filled with thick volumes on corporate law. Daniel gestured for her to take a seat while he poured them. "Both cups of coffee." "So," he began, sitting down across from her. "What have you got?" Emma opened her notebook and started explaining everything Lisa had told her. She recounted the rumors Jasmine had spread in college, the suspicious lobbying deals, and the whispers of illegal payments. Daniel listened intently, nodding occasionally, but saying little. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "It all makes sense," he said finally. "I've seen cases like this before. Ambitious people cutting corners thinking they'll never get caught. But can we prove it?" Emma asked. "That's what I need your help with." Daniel smiled faintly. "You're in luck. I represented one of those whistleblowers years ago. The ones who tried to expose Green Peak Energy. They didn't win their case, but I kept copies of some key documents. If they're still relevant, we might be able to use them." Emma's eyes lit up. "Where are they?" "In my storage unit," Daniel replied. "Let's go." An hour later, they stood in front of a dusty metal locker, its door creaking open to reveal boxes upon boxes of files. Daniel rummaged through them until he found what he was looking for, a thick folder marked Green Peak Whistleblower Case. Inside were emails, financial records, and internal memos, all pointing to a pattern of corruption within the company. "This is it," Daniel said, handing the folder to Emma. "These documents show that Green Peak paid lobbyists to suppress evidence of environmental violations. And guess whose name keeps popping up in these emails?" Emma scanned the pages eagerly. Sure enough, Jasmine's name appeared repeatedly. There were emails detailing payments made to her, instructions to delete incriminating files, and even notes about meetings where strategies were discussed. "This is huge," Emma whispered, her hands trembling slightly. "With this, we can blow the whole thing wide open." Daniel nodded. "But be careful. Going public with this kind of information will make enemies, powerful ones." "I know," Emma said firmly. "But if I don't do this, who will?" Back in Washington, Jasmine Crockett paced nervously around her apartment. Ryan had called earlier to tell her about the mysterious ally he'd reached out to, but she wasn't reassured. Whoever this person was, she doubted they could fix the mess she was in. Her phone buzzed on the counter, startling her. It was a text from Ryan. We're meeting him tonight. Stay strong. Jasmine sighed, sinking onto the couch. She hated feeling so powerless. For years, she had been the one calling the shots, making decisions, controlling outcomes. Now she was at the mercy of others, and it terrified her. Later that evening, Ryan led her to a secluded diner on the outskirts of town. Sitting in a corner booth was a man Jasmine recognized immediately, Marcus Lane, a notorious fixer known for cleaning up scandals for politicians and celebrities alike. His reputation was a mix of awe and fear. He got results, no matter the cost. Marcus greeted them with a tight smile. "Ms. Crockett," he said smoothly. "I hear you're in quite the predicament." Jasmine forced herself to maintain eye contact. "Can you help me?" "That depends," Marcus replied. "How far are you willing to go to protect your career?" He hesitated, unsure how to respond. "What do you mean?" Marcus leaned forward, lowering his voice. "People are digging into your past. They won't stop until they find something damning. If you want to stay ahead of them, we need to act fast and decisively." Ryan interjected cautiously. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Marcus smirked. "Let's just say I have ways of discouraging certain individuals from pursuing their investigations." Jasmine frowned, uneasy with the implication. "Are you talking about threats? Blackmail?" "Call it what you want," Marcus said dismissively. "The point is, it works, but it comes with risks. Are you ready to take them?" Jasmine glanced at Ryan, searching for guidance. He gave her a slight nod, though his expression betrayed his own doubts. "Fine," she said finally. "Do whatever it takes." Meanwhile, Emma Taylor returned to her apartment, her mind racing with possibilities. She had spent the entire night reviewing the documents Daniel had given her, cross-referencing names and dates. Everything pointed to Jasmine being deeply involved in Green Peak's cover-up. But Emma knew she couldn't publish the story yet, not without verifying every detail. She decided to reach out to some of the former whistleblowers mentioned in the case files. One name stood out: Kevin Myers, a former employee of Green Peak who had attempted to expose the company's wrongdoing. According to the documents, Kevin had disappeared shortly after the lawsuit collapsed, leaving behind only vague rumors about moving overseas. Emma tracked down an old address for Kevin and sent him a message via social media. To her surprise, he responded within minutes. "I don't talk about that anymore," Kevin wrote. "Too dangerous," Emma typed back quickly. "Please, this isn't just about Green Peak. It's about holding powerful people accountable. You deserve justice." There was a long pause before Kevin replied. "Meet me tomorrow at noon. Bring proof." The next day, Emma met Kevin at a small cafe near the outskirts of the city. He looked older than his profile picture suggested, with deep lines etched into his face and a wary glint in his eyes. Still, he agreed to speak with her, provided she promised not to reveal his identity. Over coffee, Kevin explained how he had uncovered evidence of Green Peak's illegal activities and tried to bring it to light. "They shut me down before I could testify," he said bitterly. "Paid me off and threatened to ruin my life if I talked." Emma showed him the documents Daniel had provided. Kevin's eyes widened as he flipped through the pages. "This is it," he murmured. "This proves everything." "But why didn't anyone listen when you first came forward?" Emma asked. Kevin shook his head. "Because they had people, like Jasmine, working against us. Lobbyists, lawyers, politicians, they all worked together to bury the truth." Emma thanked Kevin for his time and promised to keep him updated. As she walked away, she felt a surge of determination. With Kevin's testimony and the evidence from Daniel, she finally had enough to write her exposé. That night, Jasmine received another call from Ryan. "We have a problem," he said grimly. "What now?" Jasmine groaned. "There's a journalist, sniffing around. She's close to finding something big." Jasmine's stomach sank. "Who is she?" "Emma Taylor," Ryan replied, "and she's not going to stop until she ruins us." Jasmine clenched her fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Then we'll ruin her first. Ryan hesitated. Are you sure about this? Once we cross that line, there's no turning. Back. Jasmine stared at him coldly. Do you think I care about lines anymore? Just do it. As Ryan hung up the phone, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were. Emma Taylor knew she was getting close to something big. The evidence she had gathered so far painted a damning picture of Jasmine Crockett's past. Emails linking her to Green Peak Energy's cover-ups, testimony from Kevin Myers and Lisa Harper's, revelations about her manipulative behavior in college. But Emma wasn't naive. She understood that exposing powerful people came with risks. And tonight, she would find out just how dangerous those risks could be. It was late when Emma left her apartment, clutching the folder of documents Daniel Foster had given her. She planned to meet an old contact who worked for a major newspaper, hoping he could help her verify the authenticity of the files before publishing her story. As she walked through the quiet streets, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from an unknown number. Stop digging. You won't like what happens. Next, Emma froze, her heart pounding. She glanced around, half expecting to see someone watching her. But the street was empty, save for a few parked cars and flickering lampposts. Shaking off the unease, she continued walking, telling herself it was probably just a prank. Still, she quickened her pace, eager to reach the safety of the cafe where she was meeting her contact. When she arrived, however, he was nowhere to be found. Instead, a man in a dark coat stepped out of the shadows. He was tall and broad-shouldered, his face partially hidden beneath the brim of a hat. "You're Emma Taylor, right?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly. Emma instinctively took a step back. "Who are you?" "I'm here to deliver a message," the man said calmly. "Leave this alone for your own good." Emma tightened her grip on the folder. "I don't scare easily," she replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. The man chuckled softly. "That's what they all say, but trust me, you don't want to mess with these people." Before Emma could respond, he turned and disappeared into the night, leaving her standing there, shaken but resolute. She realized then that she was playing a high-stakes game, one where the consequences could be severe. Yet, instead of backing down, she felt more determined than ever to uncover the truth. Back in Washington, Jasmine Crockett sat in her living room, staring blankly at the television. The news channels were still buzzing about her appearance on The Donald J. Trump Show, dissecting every word and gesture. Her name trended online alongside hashtags like Expose Jasmine and Chas Corrupt Politician. Public opinion had turned sharply against her, and calls for her resignation grew louder each day. Ryan Mitchell paced nervously beside her, glancing at his phone every few seconds. Marcus Lane had promised to deal with Emma Taylor, but so far, there was no update. Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out, that if they didn't act quickly, everything would unravel. "We need to do something drastic," Ryan said finally, breaking the silence. Jasmine looked up at him, her eyes hollow with exhaustion. "Like what?" Ryan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Marcus suggested we leak false information about Emma, discredit her before she can publish her story." Jasmine frowned. "Won't that make us look guilty?" "It's better than letting her expose us," Ryan countered. "If we frame her as a conspiracy theorist or a liar, no one will believe her." After a moment, Jasmine nodded reluctantly. "Do it." The next morning, Emma woke up to a barrage of notifications on her phone. Someone had hacked into her social media accounts and posted screenshots of fabricated messages supposedly showing her offering bribes to sources. Fake articles accusing her of fabricating stories for fame began circulating online, complete with doctored photos and quotes attributed to anonymous colleagues. At first, Emma panicked, unsure how to respond. But as she scrolled through the comments section, she noticed something interesting. Many readers weren't buying it. Some pointed out inconsistencies in the fake posts, while others questioned why such an elaborate smear campaign would target a relatively unknown journalist unless she was onto something real. Determined not to let them silence her, Emma drafted a statement addressing the allegations. "I've spent years uncovering corruption and holding powerful people accountable," she wrote. These attacks only prove how desperate certain individuals are to protect their secrets. I won't stop until the truth comes out." She posted the statement on all her platforms along with snippets of the evidence she had gathered. Within hours, her followers rallied behind her, sharing her post and calling for answers. The tide was beginning to turn. Meanwhile, Jasmine and Ryan met with Marcus Lane in a private conference room at a downtown hotel. Marcus listened intently as they updated him on the situation, his expression unreadable. "The smear campaign isn't working fast enough," Jasmine said anxiously. "What else can we do?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, tapping his fingers together thoughtfully. "There's another option," he said slowly. "But it's risky." "What is it?" Ryan asked. Marcus lowered his voice. "We take control of the narrative. Admit to some minor wrongdoing, something small enough to seem believable, but spin it as a misunderstanding. Then, redirect attention to someone else, a scapegoat." Jasmine frowned. "Who?" Marcus smirked. "Green Peak Energy. Blame them for pressuring you into unethical decisions. Make yourself look like a victim." Jasmine hesitated, weighing the pros and cons. "Will it work?" "It might," Marcus admitted, "but only if we move quickly. Once Taylor publishes her story, it'll be too late." Unaware of their plans, Emma arranged a meeting with Daniel Foster to discuss her next steps. They met at a quiet coffee shop where Emma laid out everything she had uncovered so far. "We have enough to publish," Daniel said firmly. "But you need to protect yourself. These people are dangerous." Emma nodded. "I know. That's why I'm going to release the story anonymously, for now. If anything happens to me, the full report will automatically go public." Daniel sighed, clearly worried. "Just promise me you'll be careful." "I will," Emma assured him. "But this story needs to come out, no matter what." Later, that evening, Emma uploaded her exposé to a secure server, setting it to publish automatically within 24 hours unless she deactivated it. Then she sent copies of the evidence to trusted colleagues and media outlets, ensuring that even if something happened to her, the truth would still see the light of day. As she hit send, she felt a strange mix of fear and relief. She knew she was stepping into uncharted territory, risking everything to bring justice to those who had been wronged. But deep down, she also knew it was worth it. Across town, Jasmine prepared for her final gamble. With Ryan's help, she drafted a carefully worded apology, admitting to accepting payments from Green Peak Energy but framing it as a mistake made under pressure. She recorded a video confession, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded for forgiveness and blamed the company for exploiting her naivety. As the video went live, Jasmine watched nervously, waiting to see if the public would buy it. For a while, it seemed to work. Social media lit up with sympathetic messages, and some news outlets praised her for owning up to her mistakes. But Emma wasn't fooled. She recognized the tactic for what it was, an attempt to distract from the larger scandal. Using the evidence she had gathered, she released a follow-up article exposing the inconsistencies in Jasmine's confession and proving that Green Peak Energy was merely a pawn in a much bigger scheme. The reaction was immediate. Calls for Jasmine's resignation intensified, and federal investigators announced they were reopening the case against Green Peak Energy. This time, they vowed to leave no stone unturned. As the storm closed in around her, Jasmine realized she had miscalculated. By trying to manipulate the narrative, she had only dug herself deeper into trouble. And Emma Taylor, once dismissed as a nuisance, had become the catalyst for her downfall. The fallout from Emma Taylor's exposé was swift and merciless. Within days, Jasmine Crockett found herself at the center of a media firestorm, unlike anything she had ever experienced. Reporters camped outside her apartment, shouting questions whenever she dared to step outside. Social media exploded with calls for accountability, and hashtags like Gouge, Resign Jasmine, and Justice for Green Peak dominated trending lists. Even her closest allies in Congress began distancing themselves, fearing guilt by association. Behind closed doors, Jasmine paced frantically, her mind racing with panic. Ryan Mitchell sat nearby, scrolling through endless news updates on his phone. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. They had tried everything: smear campaigns, false confessions, even enlisting Marcus Lane's help, but nothing seemed to stop the tide of public outrage. "We're running out of options," Ryan said finally, breaking the silence. Jasmine stopped pacing and turned to face him, her eyes wild with desperation. "Then give me something new. I can't just sit here and watch my life crumble." Ryan hesitated, unsure how to respond. He knew they were backed into a corner, with no clear way out. But he also knew that giving up wasn't an option, not if they wanted to survive this nightmare. "There's one last thing we could try," he said cautiously, "but it's risky." "What is it?" Jasmine demanded. Ryan leaned closer, lowering his voice. "We leak incriminating emails implicating Emma. Make it look like she fabricated the entire story to destroy you." Jasmine frowned. "Won't that make us look guilty?" "Not if we play it right," Ryan replied. "We frame it as self-defense. Say she hacked into your accounts and forged the evidence to ruin your career." Jasmine considered this for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "Do it." Meanwhile, Emma Taylor continued to piece together the final pieces of the puzzle. With the help of Daniel Foster and Kevin Myers, she uncovered additional evidence tying Jasmine not only to Green Peak Energy, but also to other companies involved in illegal activities. Emails, financial records, and internal memos painted a damning picture of corruption and deceit. But Emma wasn't naive. She knew that exposing powerful people came with risks, and those risks were growing by the day. Late one night, as she reviewed the latest batch of documents, her phone buzzed with another anonymous message. "You've made your point. Back off now, or face the consequences." Emma stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows. But her apartment was empty, save for the faint hum of her laptop and the distant sound of traffic outside. Instead of backing down, Emma doubled her efforts. She reached out to trusted colleagues in the journalism community, sharing encrypted copies of her findings and asking them to publish the story if anything happened to her. Then she drafted a detailed timeline of events, ensuring that every claim was backed by verifiable evidence. As she worked, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights sent a shiver down her spine. Still, she pressed on, determined to see this through to the end. The next morning, Jasmine woke up to find her inbox flooded with messages from furious constituents and former supporters. Among them was a link to a new article written by Emma, detailing even more allegations against her. The headline read, "Jasmine Crockett's Web of Lies. New evidence exposes years of corruption." Jasmine felt her stomach drop as she scrolled through the article. It included screenshots of emails, bank statements, and testimony from whistleblowers, all pointing directly to her involvement in illegal activities. Worse still, the article hinted at an upcoming federal investigation, promising to uncover even more secrets. Desperate, Jasmine called Ryan and instructed him to execute their plan immediately. By mid-afternoon, fake emails supposedly sent by Emma began circulating online, accusing her of hacking into Jasmine's accounts and fabricating evidence. At first glance, the emails appeared legitimate, complete with forged timestamps and metadata. But Emma was ready for them. Using software provided by Daniel Foster, she quickly analyzed the emails and identified glaring inconsistencies that proved they were fakes. She released a statement calling out Jasmine's latest tactic, along with technical details proving the emails were fabricated. "This isn't just about me anymore," Emma wrote. "It's about holding corrupt politicians accountable. No matter how hard they try to silence me, the truth will come out." Her response sparked widespread support, with readers praising her courage and demanding justice. Even some of Jasmine's former allies began speaking out, calling for transparency and accountability. As the pressure mounted, federal investigators announced they were launching a formal inquiry into Jasmine's past dealings. Subpoenas were issued, witnesses were summoned, and search warrants executed. For the first time, Jasmine realized she might not escape this unscathed. One evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, Jasmine received a call from Marcus Lane. His tone was grim. "It's over," he said bluntly. "You need to prepare for the worst." Jasmine's hands trembled as she gripped the phone. "What do you mean?" "They're coming for you," Marcus replied. "The feds are closing in. If you want any chance of salvaging your reputation, you need to cooperate fully. Otherwise, you'll go down for everything." Jasmine hung up the phone and buried her face in her hands, tears streaming down her cheeks. She had spent years building her career, clawing her way to the top, and now it was all slipping away because of choices she had made long ago. In the weeks that followed, Jasmine became increasingly isolated. Friends stopped returning her calls, colleagues avoided her in the halls of Congress, and strangers hurled insults whenever she ventured outside. Public opinion had turned sharply against her, leaving her with no one to turn to. Finally, under mounting pressure, Jasmine resigned from Congress in disgrace. Cameras captured her leaving Capitol Hill for the last time, her head bowed and sunglasses hiding her eyes. Rumors swirled that federal charges were imminent, though nothing official had been announced. For Emma Taylor, the victory was bittersweet. Her exposé had brought attention to important issues, shining a light on corruption and corporate greed, but it had also put her in harm's way, forcing her to live in constant fear of retaliation. Still, she refused to back down, vowing to continue fighting for justice. As Jasmine retreated to her hometown to rebuild her life, or perhaps escape it entirely, Emma remained steadfast in her mission. Somewhere deep down, she wondered if anyone truly understood the cost of ambition, or if they cared. But for now, she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The truth had won, and that was enough. Months had passed since Jasmine Crockett's resignation, and life in Washington had slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after such a scandal. The media frenzy eventually died down, replaced by coverage of new controversies, and emerging politicians eager to fill the void Jasmine had left behind. But for those directly involved, the aftermath lingered like a shadow they couldn't shake. Emma Taylor sat on the porch of her small suburban home, sipping coffee as the sun rose over the horizon. It was a peaceful morning, the kind she rarely experienced during the height of her investigation into Jasmine Crockett. Now, with the story behind her, Emma found herself reflecting on everything that had happened. She had exposed corruption, held powerful people accountable, and earned widespread recognition for her work. Yet despite the accolades, she couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. The cost of uncovering the truth had been high. Her name was still whispered in certain circles, some praising her bravery, others accusing her of sensationalism. Threats continued to trickle in, though less frequently now, and she knew she would always carry the weight of what she had uncovered. Still, Emma reminded herself why she had done it: to give a voice to those who couldn't speak for themselves, and to shine a light on injustice. Inside the house, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. It was a text from Daniel Foster. "Just saw the news. Looks like they're finally charging her." Emma set down her coffee mug and picked up the phone. Sure enough, breaking news alerts confirmed that federal prosecutors had filed charges against Jasmine Crockett for conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. The indictment included dozens of counts, each tied to her involvement in corporate cover-ups and illegal lobbying activities. As she scrolled through the details, Emma felt a mix of emotions: relief that justice was being served, but also a tinge of sorrow for the wasted potential. Jasmine had once been a rising star, someone who could have made a real difference if she hadn't chosen the wrong path. Instead, her legacy would forever be tarnished by greed and deception. Meanwhile, Jasmine sat alone in her childhood bedroom in Kentucky, staring blankly at the wall. The room was unchanged since she was a teenager: faded posters of pop stars, dusty bookshelves, and a quilt stitched by her grandmother. But nothing felt familiar anymore. The world she had built for herself had crumbled, leaving her stranded in a place she barely recognized. Her lawyer had warned her about the charges, urging her to cooperate fully with investigators in hopes of reducing her sentence. "It's your only chance," he had said grimly. But Jasmine wasn't sure she cared anymore. Every day felt heavier than the last, the weight of her mistakes pressing down on her chest until it was hard to breathe. She thought about the choices that had led her here, the shortcuts she had taken, the lies she had told, the people she had hurt along the way. At the time, it had all seemed worth it. Power, success, influence. They were intoxicating, blinding her to the consequences of her actions. Now, stripped of everything she had worked so hard to achieve, Jasmine realized how hollow it all was. Her mother knocked softly on the door before stepping inside. "Are you okay?" she asked gently, sitting down beside her daughter. Jasmine shook her head. "I don't know what I am anymore." Her mother sighed, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're still my little girl, and no matter what happens, we'll get through this together." For the first time in months, Jasmine allowed herself to cry, not out of anger or frustration, but out of sheer exhaustion. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she couldn't face it alone. Back in Miami, Lisa Harper received a package in the mail one afternoon. Inside was a handwritten letter from Emma Taylor, thanking her for her courage and honesty during the investigation. There was also a copy of Emma's exposé, now published as a book titled Uncovering the Truth, Corruption in Plain Sight. Lisa read the dedication page, which included a simple message. "To everyone who spoke up when it mattered most, thank you." Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes as she flipped through the pages, reliving the events that had brought them here. For years, she had carried guilt for staying silent about Jasmine's manipulative behavior in college, but helping Emma had given her a sense of closure, a reminder that speaking the truth, even when it was hard, could make a difference. Kevin Myers, the former Green Peak Energy whistleblower, watched the news unfold from his apartment in Canada. He had followed Emma's investigation closely, marveling at how far she had come despite the obstacles in her path. When reporters reached out to him for comment, he declined interviews, preferring to let the story speak for itself. But privately, Kevin felt a renewed sense of hope. For so long, he had believed his fight against Green Peak was futile, that no one cared about the damage they had caused. Seeing Emma expose not only the company but also the politicians who had enabled them proved that accountability was still possible if you were willing to fight for it. In Washington, Ryan Mitchell struggled to rebuild his own life after the scandal. His reputation as Jasmine's assistant had been irreparably damaged, making it nearly impossible to find work in politics. Friends stopped calling, and acquaintances avoided him, assuming he must have known about Jasmine's misdeeds. Ryan tried to move on, taking odd jobs to pay the bills while searching for a fresh start. Late at night, he often wondered if he could have done more to stop Jasmine, or if he had simply been too blinded by loyalty to see the truth. Either way, he vowed never to let himself be used again. As for Emma, she continued her work as an investigative journalist, determined to uncover the next hidden scandal. Her exposé on Jasmine Crockett had opened doors she never imagined, earning her awards and opportunities she hadn't dreamed of. But more importantly, it had reminded her why she had chosen this career in the first place: to seek justice, even when it came at great personal cost. One evening, as she prepared for another long night of research, Emma glanced at the framed photo on her desk, a picture of her parents smiling proudly at her college graduation. They had taught her the value of integrity, of standing up for what was right no matter how difficult it might be. Emma smiled faintly, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face whatever came next. After all, the truth was worth fighting for, and she had proven that she wouldn't back down without a fight.